1-2 again. Inside. The Royals, 2015 World Champions. Vaughn hits on the ground, left side, Wick dives, smothers it on the grass, to his feet, throw to first. Oh, he got him! What a play! Bobby Witt Jr. He is spectacular. The Royals come from behind and beat the White Sox 8-5. And who else than Bobby Witt Jr.? Gordon in the air to center. Back at the wall. This game is tied.
Alrighty, welcome to another episode of Crown Talk, your go-to podcast for everything Kansas City Royals. It is Monday, April 14th. We are on episode 3 of Crown Talk. I'm Jared Perkins. That's Kevin O'Brien. We got a lot of series to get into, but Kevin, how are you doing today, man?
Doing a lot better with Royals avoiding the sweep. I think that was a big concern for us, was that we were going to get swept by the Guardians, and all of Guardians Twitter was going to probably have a field day with that. But thankfully, we are able to take one. So much needed win going into a tough stretch against the Yankees and Tigers this week. So glad we got that W.
Yeah, and I think both of us will have a lot of negatives to talk about when it comes to that Guardian series. Let's kick it off with the series against the Minnesota Twins, right? The Royals went and won 3 of 1. Pitching looked great. Hitting was kind of still iffy throughout the entire series, even though they were able to pull off those wins. Bullpen incredible. But what were some of the standout things for you in that Twin series?
I think the thing is that stuck out to me was, just the pitching staff. Again, we've seen, we have all kinds of issues right now with the hitting, but just the pitching staff once again kind of continuing to do well. I was there for the one loss when they lost 4-0 in person. But even Seth Lugo, even though he didn't get the win, he still looked pretty solid. He had, I can't remember how many Ks. I think he had 6 Ks in that one. Had a couple of rough innings, but again, just the pitching staff just doing their job, mowing guys down and keeping them in it. And I think that's just something that we can kind of take away with this Royals team is we can depend on the pitching. For the most part, we can depend on the bullpen. And I think that was just enough against the Twins, who are going through their own issues with hitting, fielding, and just a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of go through some of the starters. Like Cole Ragans went 6 innings, 11 strikeouts, 4 hits, 1 run against the Twins. Bullpen looked magnificent. We can talk a little bit about Hunter Harvey going down and going on to the injured reserve list, which is unfortunate. But guys like Angel Zerpa stepped up, John Schreiber stepped up. Guys that you kind of just needed to step up in this bullpen. Daniel Lynch is kind of taking on that role as well. And of course, you got Ursig and Estevez just still kind of going out there and dominating. It seems like Lynch is going to be that guy that maybe replaces Harvey. So I think we saw it in, game 2 or 3 against the Twins when they won 3-1. Yeah. Lynch was the guy to come out in the 7th inning. I know Walker went 5 1/3 that game. Schreiber went an inning. So he came out in the 7th after Schreiber had got one out. But to me, it feels like Lynch is going to be that guy that replaces Harvey.
I would agree with that. I think he's been the most dependable. I think they've kind of eased him into that role just because, he was phenomenal down the stretch last year in the bullpen. But, that was his first really full-time bullpen experience. He's always kind of been more of a hybrid guy. Even this spring, they kind of were testing him out as a starter and as a reliever, and Kris Bubic won the role, and rightfully so. And but I think I feel good about the bullpen in terms of Lynch. Lynch is just the kind of guy, his stuff and the look that he brings compared to Estevez and Ursig, I think is a nice change of pace.
Yeah.
And he has that distance to where he can go a couple innings if need be. So, so I think he's kind of ascended to that second setup role that you could say with Harvey on the shelf.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other guy that kind of had a resurgence during that game too is Kyle Isbell. He really showed up with the bat. I mean, he's hitting 9th for this team, but he is the one guy that is actually producing right now in this lineup. What are some of your thoughts on Isbell? I know going into the season, we were like, as long as he can just like hit 240, 230, you're like, okay, he's going to play elite center field defense. But I mean, I like the new Kyle Isbell.
Yeah, and Kyle Isbell is really interesting because he's the kind of guy that either goes to this stretch where he has like an 0 for 12 stretch where he has 3 or 4 strikeouts, and then he'll have a stretch of games where he's collecting 2 or 3 hits.
Yeah.
He's not the kind of guy that's going to get like a hit a game or a hit or two a game. He's either going to be all or nothing from him, which to be honest is really not bad from your 9 hitter, right? I
No.
mean, he's hitting 282 right now with a 692 OPS. Had 3 hits today. With him and kind of Garcia at the bottom of the lineup, I mean, I think you got to feel good about this lineup at the end of the batting order, and especially a guy like Kyle Isbell, whose value is all on defense. If he's a 670, 680, 690 OPS hitter, I think
happy.
I think that's more than what the Royals would ask.
Yeah, and because you look at the guys that are kind of before. Well, Michael's now leading off because we'll get to the Jonathan India injury and Kyle Isbell's at the bottom. But you're looking at Massey, Renfroe, Melendez, Furman, and I saw someone tweet out, I think, that this is like the Bermuda Triangle of the Royals lineup. Like you got Massey's hitting 200, Renfroe's hitting 128, Melendez is hitting 077, and then Fermin is hitting 143. And it's like, yeah, you have Kevin Biggio on the bench, but you plug him in there, he's hitting like 216. So you have this just like 5 through 8, basically 5, 6, 7, 8, yeah, that are just not producing. And I know this is an area where the Royals try to address, like they were in on Profar, they were in on Santander this offseason, but I think we're kind of seeing like this lineup needs a middle of the order bat, like a 5, 6, 7 guy.
Yeah, and the strikeout issues are kind of a red flag. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from the Guardians pitching staff. I mean, we know that the Guardians pitching staff is a good one, but this was also Ben Lively that we faced today. I mean, this isn't a guy with overpowering stuff. And if you look at Massey, Renfroe, Melendez, 7 strikeouts between the 3 of them today.
Yeah.
Luis Ortiz had 10 strikeouts yesterday. I mean, that's kind of a thing, is that the Royals really didn't have really too bad of strikeout issues last year. Hunter Renfroe had a strikeout rate under 20% last year. It was the first time that he had that in his career. But this year, his strikeout rate is, I believe it's around over 25%. It might be higher after today.
Yeah.
So those are just some concerns that I just have with the Royals, is that they're just striking out a lot, and it's those kind of middle of the order bats that are doing so.
Yeah, I feel like I'm doing my weekly let's check Baseball Savant and see where Hunter Renfroe and MJ Melendez are. I know things are getting not better. Melendez is in the 1st percentile in whiff percentage, 6th percentile in K percentage, 31st percentile in chase percentage, xwOBA 2nd percentile. Expected batting average. The fact that he's hitting 077 and his expected batting average is just 112 shows you like he is completely lost at the plate. It's not like he's getting unlucky. Like this is just really, 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 really bad production from MJ, unfortunately.
Yeah, 35% strikeout rate, and that's not including the 2 strikeouts today. 7.5 walk rate. I mean, that's not terrible, but it's not. But considering where the strikeout rate is, and even if you just watch him hit right now, he's just late. The timing is not there. The confidence is not there. I mean, I know that the Royals have done things with Melendez where they've said, hey, he can work through these things at the major league level, but it's getting to a point where it's like, I don't think that's like very, very productive. At this point, it's like he's obviously mechanically not able to adjust to a Ben Lively fastball. If that's the case, then it's like
good.
Yeah, a 90, 91 mile per hour fastball. Like, come on, like if he can't do that, then he needs to do something, whether it's in Omaha, most likely in Omaha, and just try to work on that, because right now it's just, you could just tell that he's just a shell of who he was as a rookie, or even at times last year in 2025. This was a guy who hit a big home run in the playoffs against the Yankees. Right. So it's just like it doesn't even seem like the same guy up there.
Yeah. And I mean, this kind of goes back to the other topic that I want to get into before we kind of switch over the Guardians. But like Drew Waters was called up, right? Mark was thrown on the injured reserve list. So at some point, like, just give Waters a shot, I guess, with the bat. Like, we saw the defense. It's not great.
Yeah.
but are you getting better defense from MJ Melendez? Maybe. I mean, MJ's been making some plays out there that have been pretty impressive this year. But I again saw a lot of Waters in the Twins series. Still a lot of swing and miss issues. He kind of is what he is right now at 26 years old. I don't see anything changing too much in his game. But like you said in I think the last podcast we talked about, like ride the hot hand, right? He was red hot in Omaha. See if he can carry some of that over. Like putting him on the bench at this point with the way that like 5 through 8 are hitting, I don't think really serves this team much at this point.
Yeah, I would almost at this point when Canna returns, I would almost just send down MJ and then just put Waters in that role. Give him until Memorial Day to see what he can do. And if he's not good in Memorial Day, because right now they're not going to get anything from MJ. I mean, yes, Waters, his defense is questionable. Yeah. He strikes out a lot. But at least like we can kind of say for sure this is what he is, and then you let go of his roster spot, and then you bring in John Rave if he's not good, and then you put him on the 40-man roster. So I mean that would be my suggestion. Like you said, I just think right, let him see what he can do. He can't be any worse than what MJ's doing. I mean MJ, for Christ's sake, I mean it is not good. It is like if you look at it, and this was before today, right? It's like he's a one like under about 100 slugging. Like I mean that's terrible. I mean that's just not, he's not giving you anything right now. So might as well put in somebody who can at least give you something.
Yeah, and like you can argue like, oh, just have him on the bench, but I don't think he benefits from being on the bench either, right? He needs to get plate appearances because like his confidence isn't going to get back just sitting there on the bench. Like he's got to go to Omaha and he's got options left. Like there's no reason why they shouldn't try to give him a shot. Like I know it's like a huge, given he spent like the last 2 years in the big leagues full time, like that's probably a huge blow to a guy, but if you're hitting 077, it can't get any worse unless you go down to Omaha and try to adjust things.
Yeah. And, Waters is not a one-tool guy, which makes him an ideal bench. Dairon Blanco, Tyler Tolbert, those guys are one-tool guys. They're ideal bench guys. Even Canna, it's like you can kind of have him on the bench because his plate discipline is so good. You're not going to bring in Waters like in a late inning situation when you need a discipline at bat or even like somebody who can steal bases. So, you might as well play him rather than because he's not going to satisfy a specific role.
Yeah, I agree. Shifting over to the Guardians series. So we'll start with game 1. This game was frustrating. This is the one I was really tuned into. Kris Bubic, we'll start there. We'll start with the positive. 6 innings, 6 hits, 2 earned runs, 3 runs given up, thanks to a few errors, 2 walks, 5 Ks. Kris Bubic is becoming an ace-type pitcher, in my opinion. I think everything that he's doing, he might not be like a number 1, but I think he is a solid 2-3 guy for any rotation. And for a rotation that already has Ragans, Lugo, and Waka, to have Bubic basically going out there giving you ace-type stuff out of the 4, like that's massive for this team.
I mean, I would say right now that if you're saying, obviously we know that Cole Ragans is the ace of this rotation, and we'll talk about that later. But I mean, you look at by K per 9, Ragans obviously leads with a 13.5 mark, and I'm not sure if that counts today or not. But then you look at Bubic, and he's got a 10.13, right? So Lugo's only at 6.48, Waka's at 6.60, Lorenzen at 7.41. I mean, right now you could make the argument that Bubic is the second best pitcher on this rotation, and I know that Lugo has the chops and was a Cy Young guy. I know Waka has the experience. But there's something about a guy like Bubic who can go out there and generate strikeouts, and he's still producing some pretty good ground ball rates. I mean, he's not like he's just like a strikeouts and like giving up hard contact. His ground ball rate's 52.1%. His home run to fly ball rate is 7.1%. So he's keeping the ball in play. So there's just a lot to like about him. I mean, I think we knew his stuff was there after we saw him in the bullpen. I think our concern was how would he handle it over longer innings or longer outings and like more pitches. And right now it just seems like it's been more of the same, which is awesome to see.
Yeah, you have to love it. But outside of him, the only other positive really was Bobby Witt going 2 for 2 with 2 walks in that first game. The defense is probably the first negative I want to touch on. We talked about Drew Waters dropping that fly ball in left field kind of earlier. Jonathan India just did not look good at third base, had a throwing and a fielding error that really cost the Royals in this one. The end score was 7-0. And we can talk about another reason why that it was 7-0. It wasn't because of Kris Bubic or even Steven Cruz, who came out of the bullpen after him. But defensively, I think this team looks a lot rustier, and we've kind of talked about this offline, how like the cold weather could be playing a role, right? If your hands are freezing, like it's really harder to make these plays. Not making excuses for these guys because like both teams are playing in the colder weather, right?
Yeah.
Like the Guardians and the Twins are playing in the same ballpark and the same game that the Royals are playing in. But to me, it just doesn't seem like this team is as sound defensively. And that could be because of a lot of reasons, like India having to play left field or third base when he's not normally out there. But what are some of the things that you're seeing defensively for this team?
Yeah, I think we've kind of seen a trend, I think under Quatrero, is that we're seeing this trend of the Royals feeling confident that they can move guys around the field.
Yeah.
And it seems like they kind of feel like most guys are utility players. We saw, obviously we see that with India playing third and left field. We see that with Michael Garcia playing third base and center field and second base. In spring training, they tested Massey out there in left field. We had Adam Frazier last year who played multiple positions. And, position versatility is something that they really value, but some guys can do this and some guys can't. And it's, and not everybody's Ben Zobrist. Not everybody can play multiple positions. I think Michael Garcia is handling it okay. And Jonathan India has times where he shows flashes, but we also see this is the risk that you take, is that India is obviously playing in a very unfamiliar position and then makes some bad plays. And that's what killed them. And I don't know. And I don't know how long they keep this up. I think it's like metrically the Royals started off really bad. I think when Bobby first started, then they kind of became good.
Yeah.
But right now, like, I don't really trust a whole lot of people in the field other than Kyle Isbell and Bobby Witt Jr. And obviously Michael Garcia at third, but Michael at second and center, like I'm like a little bit, and Michael Massey, I would say is good, but his back issues are always concerning.
Yeah. And Vinny at first base, I'm almost like, I'd put Jack Kaggs at first and let Vinny DH at this point. Like Vinny's fine. Like he's not doing anything wrong, but he's not like an elite electric defender out there. And I know the first base position isn't as needed. And I think we've talked about this too offline, is like Salvi's getting older, right? The defense isn't the same behind the dish that it used to. The arm strength isn't there like it used to be. Salvi was like a guaranteed gunning everybody out at second base for a long time. Like the framing issues have gotten better and those kind of things. And we've talked about that in the past as well. But Salvi's not the same guy. Like watching Freddie Fermin, like, the bat's been struggling, but every time Freddie's out there catching, like that incredible play he made to gun a guy out at first base, like Freddie is really, really good defensively, regardless of the bat. And so I think, like you said, they're all over the place a little bit defensively.
Yeah, and like I said, I think they will get better with time. It's one thing, like if you're going to make these position changes, then you're doing that because you're like, we want offensive versatility. Yeah. We want to maximize that. But if your offense isn't coming through, then it's like, well, then we're only shooting ourselves in the foot. Like you can tolerate bad defense if you're hitting, but you can't tolerate bad defense if you're not hitting. Then you're like a bad hitting and a bad defensive teams, and you're giving runs on both ends of the coin.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just going into Salvi's, his framing, 96th percentile this year.
Yeah.
So sorry about it, people. He's framing now.
Yeah. But his blocking has not gotten much better. I mean, that's an area where he's kind of gone down a little bit.
Pop time is low too.
Pop time is lower as well. So, it's like he's learning and he's doing things. And I think that's a credit to Paul Hoover, who I know made it a big initiative to kind of improve the framing of this team because the Royals had been so dogged about that for years. But Salvi needs more rest. They need to be able to have Freddie in there more, but Freddie also has to hit. And if Freddie is hitting 143, like that's a lot harder to justify more regular playing time for.
Yeah, I agree. Last thing I want to touch on before we switch over to game 2 of this Guardian series is Chris Stratton. That is the reason why the Royals lost 7-0. Because I think it was 4-0 going in 3-0 going into the 9th. Yeah. And Stratton gave up 4. Man, like I think that's my issue with him, even him throwing in a mop-up role. Because 3-0 is still hard to come back from in like the bottom of the 9th. or probably when they would go into the top of the ninth because Royals were away. But if he's given up 4 runs and like the game is like fully over, right? Like at 3-0, at least you have a shot. Like you could maybe have a rally in the top of the ninth and all of a sudden come from behind and take the game from the Guardians. But like Stratton's going out there giving up 4, like then the game's just fully over and you're just like, okay, cool. Guess we're going home. I just don't understand. He's up to like an 8.69 ERA now. Like I talked about this on the last pod, so I feel like I'm a broken record at this point. But like, I don't know what you do with him anymore.
Yeah, fastball's down. Fastball velocity's down 1.5 mile per hour from last year. Yeah, he's throwing the fastball more, so it's like he's throwing the fastball more and it's slower. It's just like you said. Right now, he's got a ERA over 8, a WHIP over 2.3. I mean, he's walking more guys than striking out. I mean, you can live with this. You can live with a guy walking, and I'm sure I said this last week. So, like you said, we're becoming a broken record on this. Like you can live with a guy who strikes out more or walks more than he strikes out if they got like 100-mile-per-hour stuff, and you think they'll eventually do that. You can't do that with a guy throwing 90.
No,
and it's like I think we're seeing with Steven Cruz. We got Evan Sisk.
Yeah.
Jonathan Bowlen is still in. Bowlen, I can't remember, but he's still in. He's still like has a good fastball. Junior Fernandez is another guy who's got a really good fastball. Stratton's holding a role that's reserved for a project, and I think it's just like I'm not sure what Stratton brings right now to this team.
I feel like we're hitting Matt Sauer territory with Kris
Bubic
at this point. My goal next week is to not talk about Kris Stratton, putting it on the board. That's going to be like number 1 to do for next week. We're just not going to talk about Kris Stratton.
Yeah. No, I know. I agree. Let's talk more about Jonathan Bowlen. That's what we got to focus on next week. Let's
find
be
the
positive here. Yeah, exactly.
Shifting to game 2. Game 2 was at least a little bit more positive, right? They still lost a game 6-3. Michael Lorenzen doing everything you probably want out of a number 5 guy. Went 5 2/3 innings, 7 hits, 3 earned, 4 Ks. He's not going to be the guy who strikes everybody out, but he's going to get innings for you, and he's doing exactly what you would want from a number 5. Pasquantino went 3 for 4 with a home run, which I think is huge for this team, just because he's a guy that needs to get going if this lineup's going to succeed. And he went 3 for 4 in this game, 1 for 3 in the next with an RBI. Like, this is the guy you want to get going. Let's stick with the positive. So what did you kind of see with Vinny, Lorenzen, and a couple other guys in this game?
I mean, I think one of the things I really appreciate is Michael Lorenzen. And I think it's, if you think about it, where we were back in like 2022, Cal Eldred is pitching coach. Yeah. Just like anybody that came to Kansas City, just like their career just kind of came to die. And you look at a guy like Lorenzen, who's kind of honestly was kind of like, is this guy still a starter? Is this guy probably just a reliever at this point? And he's just really turned it around. I mean, you look at his kind of run value. I mean, he doesn't have an elite fastball velocity, but you look at he's generating a 30% K rate, a 27.8% whiff rate on his four-seamer this year. He's got a +2 run value. He's increased usage of his sweeper since coming over, and that's got a +1 run value, and it has a K rate of 28.6%. He's just doing the thing it's almost like the Royals are doing the things that the Guardians do, that the Brewers do, that the Rays do. It's like they identify a guy, and I think that's one thing they learned in 2023. I think the Royals were like, hey, we have maybe we can have our pitching style and try to change Brad Keller. And then they realize, maybe that's not going to happen. We can't change Brad. Maybe instead of changing our guys, let's bring guys from the outside, and they're having a lot of success. Yeah. And so, like you said, Michael Lorenzen, he's a 5 guy, but you got to be really happy with kind of what they've seen with him over the last year, since they acquired him at the trade deadline last year. Yeah, and I mean, he's not a guy like you mentioned. He's not going to pop off the charts on the Savant page. Everything's kind of mediocre, but he gets it done. He lives in the zone. He is able to kind of paint corners, get ground balls. He's just a guy who's going to go out and get innings, and I think they have to be happy with that.
Anything else on game 2? We mentioned the 10Ks by Luis Ortiz. The Royals just could not hit him. Biggio struck out 4 times.
Yeah.
Salvi struck out 3 times. Isbell struck out 2. Bobby struck out 2. Like this, anybody you can think of, platinum sombrero for Biggio's tough. Tough look.
Well, against Luis Ortiz. I mean, I know
Yeah.
Luis Ortiz has always had good stuff, and I don't know what it is about Pirates pitchers. You know, they stink when they're developed in Pittsburgh, and then all of a sudden they go to another squad, and all of a sudden they're popping off double-digit strikeouts. I mean, Charlie Morton, it's like a prime example of that. But it was nice to see Vinny break out. I mean, a little bit. I mean, he's a guy that they just really need for him to turn it around. I mean, we've talked about some of his chase problems. He's been chasing a little bit more, it seems like, every year, and a lot of that's probably he's pressing. I mean, he's probably a guy who's trying to do too much up there, and it was nice to kind of see him. He didn't seem like he was trying to do too much. But I mean, I think it's going to be an interesting thing. Is like if the Royals are having a hard time with high velocity pitchers, which it kind of seems like they are. I kind of wonder what adjustments are they going to make, because right now, if it seems like any starter with high velocity stuff, it seems like they're really struggling with.
Yeah, and I think that's something we talked about too on the last podcast, and I keep kind of saying that we're reiterating stuff, but there is no game plan from the offense, it seems like, when they're facing pitchers. Kind of rolling into game 2 was a little bit better against Ben Lively, but we mentioned this is a guy that has a 90 to 91 mile an hour fastball, basically. Mm-hmm. They still struck out 9 times in the game and 5 times against Ben Lively. So like there's still issues there. Right. Like, so I struggle with it because like in this game, Salvi went yard, which is great. Like they went down 2-0 and then Salvi brought him right back. They were just able to produce. Michael Garcia, again, incredible, 3 for 4 at the top of the lineup. He's just absolutely mashing everything that comes his way. So this was a really impressive win. What did you kind of see different from the offense now that they didn't have a high velocity pitcher they were facing?
Well, I mean, I think we saw a little bit more aggression. I think we saw, and obviously it did not work for like guys like Massey, Renfroe, or Melendez, but I thought we saw a little bit more of aggressive approach from Michael and Bobby and Vinny and even Salvi. It's Garcia is so interesting because again he's lost the leadoff spot, got the start today, and collected 3 hits. Yeah. It does seem like he's the kind of guy who does respond. Like he's the kind of guy that if he's being challenged in a way, I think he does respond with that. I think we saw that in the postseason a little bit when he got some starts at leadoff, and he kind of came through. I think in their game 2 win, I think he was a leadoff hitter against Carlos Rodon. So, I like what we saw from Michael. And then obviously like Isbell at the bottom of the order collecting 3 hits. So I think what we're seeing is we're starting to see the velocity, like their exit velocity, starting to produce some hits too today. Yeah, I mean that was the thing too. Is like we saw base hits. It's like in game 2, Michael was hitting the ball hard. It was just at guys. Bobby hit the ball hard today on one play, and they made an incredible catch. Still some of those defensive issues too. I mean, this should have probably been a 4-1 game, but Bobby kind of airmailed one that caused Schneemann to get an inside the park home run. So It's just the Royals. I don't know if it's pressing. I don't know if it's trying to do too much, but they got to clean up those things, because I felt like that was what helped the team so much last year was they were really clean with defensively, and that's just not happening this year.
Yeah, and I mean, given the way this lineup is hitting and given the defensive issues, the fact that they're 8-8 is pretty impressive. Like if they get some of these things ironed out, I think they can go on a massive run. And we're only not even halfway through April, right? We're not even into May yet. They're still playing cold weather games. The bats just aren't waking up. Like the fact that just shows you how good the starting rotation and bullpen is, because they can pull off an 8-8 record when things aren't going right. And I think you want that from your team, right? Like, because in a 162 game season, like things aren't always going to be going right. It happens to even the best teams, like the Dodgers. It's going to happen to them. The Yankees, like all these teams, they're going to go through their struggles. And this early on, I'd rather have the struggles be happening in April than them happening in September, October.
Yeah. Really interesting thing that if you look at the defense, last year, the Royals by outs above average, they were the best team in outs above average last year with 30. They were 38 outs above average, the best team. This year, they ranked 22nd with a -2 outs above average. So they've gone from the best team to kind of the lower end. Now, it's early, So,
Yeah.
we have a lot of time, but, but, people talk about Bobby and people talk about the pitching, but, you also think about it, it's like the defense was also a big part of that success last year. So, like you said, I mean, you got the good thing is that the Royals are 8-8, and it feels like this team hasn't played anywhere close to the quality of ball that we thought they were capable of at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Last thing we'll touch on for the Guardians series, which we probably should have touched on this at the beginning, but Cole Ragans, man,
Yeah.
7 2/3 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 10 strikeouts, longest start of his career. I think he was still hitting 98 into the 7th inning. Um, I, I picked him as like a preseason AL Cy Young Award winner. He is looking the part early on. It is just absolutely incredible. I mean, stuff that he's doing, he's like at Tarek Skubal level at this point.
Yeah. I mean, he leads the MLB in strikeouts right now with 34. And that was considering that he only had 3 strikeouts on opening day. I mean, you think about like what he did, like the adjustment from going from like from a 3 strikeout, 2 walk game on opening day at home, goes to Cleveland, has 10 strikeouts, 0 walks, really, gives up 2 runs, but one was unearned. And he went he could have gone into the 8th. I get like probably like Quachero was just like, hey, like we got to get this win. Like,
Yeah.
I guarantee you, if the Royals had won like on Saturday or Friday, I guarantee you probably he lets Ragans go out for that last outing, finish off the 8th. But he's like, we need this win, which is why he went with Urseg. But you could have easily saw Ragans go 8 innings. They just couldn't touch him. I mean, it was just, and I love what we've seen is I think Royals data had kind of mentioned this. We've kind of seen Ragans kind of forego his cutter. It kind of seems now he's really leaned into his 4-seamer, and we've seen the velocity on it, and he's just kind of become just that power pitcher. He's just, his fastball, his changeup, his slider, his knuckle curve, the cutter, which was kind of his big pitch in Texas, he's kind of gotten away from it, and the results have been great. I mean, like I said, 3 straight 10-plus strikeouts games. I mean, that's really incredible. That's the first time since Kevin Napier in 1996. So, I mean, this is ace-level stuff. This is Cy Young candidate stuff. And I kind of predicted that he'd be a finalist. If this continues, he probably could be a winner. That's how impressive he is.
Yeah, and you were talking about kind of the changes of the pitch usage, and he's up to 52% on the 4-seam fastball. I think that's up from like 44% last year. Changeup's gone down a little bit, but like you said, the cutter's already down to 7%. He's going to the curveball more, which that was his lowest utilized pitch last year.
Mm-hmm.
So you're seeing kind of that uptick in the 4-seam, uptick in the curveball, and the results are insane. He's got an expected ERA of 1.74. He's at a 2.28 overall, but like that xERA, 1.74.
And you look at his quality of contact. His weak contact percentage. His career has been about 3.9. Last year was 3.9%. He's up to 7.9%. So not is he only like striking dudes out, but even when they're hitting the ball, they're like not doing stuff against it. That's incredible stuff.
Yeah, you gotta love it. In terms of other stories outside the 2 series, we talked about the injuries. Canada, the IR, Drew Waters called up. Don't really have much else to add there. Hunter Harvey, IR. We talked about Steven Cruz called up. Last guy we didn't talk about. We talked about him last time on the podcast because of how we were like, when is the Sam Long experiment, I guess, going to end? Well, it somewhat ended. He hit the IR, in which you kind of feel like maybe there was something actually going on injury-wise because the command was completely lost. I think he threw like 2 wild pitches or pass balls, or 2 like wild pitches that weren't even close to the zone in his last outing. And then that's when those kind of like it doesn't become a command issue and it becomes a control issue. That's when you start kind of worried about potential injuries. So he was sent to the IR. Evan Sisk was called up, which is pretty exciting. He's a prospect I think all of us have been kind of waiting to see. But what are some of your thoughts on the Sam Long injury?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I had been hearing that there were some lingering concerns that it might have been an arm or an injury issue. Yeah. And like you said, it kind of felt like his last appearance against Cleveland, he just didn't look right. Even for his standards, I saw him on last Wednesday when they played against Minnesota. I thought he had a decent outing. He gave up a home run, but he probably shouldn't have come out another inning. I was kind of like scratching my head, like, I wonder why Quachero just decided to bring out Sam for another batter. But he struck out 2 guys. But like you said, when you lose kind of control, that's usually a sign of, hey, there's something bigger at play. So it's a good way to clear up a roster spot. At the very least, it's like hopefully it's nothing serious. And if it is, if it is an injury, maybe he can kind of get back to where he was. But I'm really excited about Evan Sisk. You think about it, the Evan Sisk, Steven Cruz, 2 of the returns from the Michael A. Taylor trade, back in 2022, and now they're both made it to the major league. So, I mean, another thing that we got to talk about, JJ, is, again, like kind of getting successful and getting value in some of these trades. I mean, Michael A. Taylor, it's like he kind of was like blocking Kyle Isbell, and he was a good fielder but not a good hitter, and they cleared a spot for Kyle Isbell, and now they got 2 relievers in the return, and they have 2 relievers that have some upside. So we'll probably see Sisk, I'm guessing, in Yankee Stadium. They're going to need it. I mean, he's kind of a high ground ball percentage guy, and the Yankees ballpark obviously is not very conducive to or very friendly to fly ball pitchers, so it wouldn't be surprising if we see Sisk during this Yankee series.
Yeah, I agree with you on the JJ point too, and like we are seeing some of the performances from minor leaguers like Henry Williams and Derlin Figueroa, who are also guys that JJ traded. It was like Yarbrough to the Dodgers to get Derlin, and then I think Henry Williams came from the Padres. And what was that trade? That was who was it? That wasn't because Yarbrough. There was another reliever, wasn't there? That we got rid of. It's gonna blank my mind, and I'm not gonna be. Let me see. Trade to Royals. Yeah, I'm Google searching this.
Yeah, me too. So
Scott Barlow.
That was it. He was part of the Scott Barlow return. Yep.
Yeah. Brain lost that one for a second, but yeah, like guys like that are already having success in the minor league, so it's good to see. Last injury to talk about is Jonathan India. Looked way worse than I hopefully potentially isn't. What was the play that he got injured on? He got right quad tightness, but it looked like he was just like mad about it when he came off the field.
Yeah, I wasn't able to watch the game. I was listening to it on the radio, and so they weren't really clear at first. I mean, again, cold weather, those kind of things, and then, maybe it just seemed like maybe he just tweaked something. It was kind of weird because Annie Rogers, she tweeted it, and she basically tweeted in a way that made it sound like he did something that caused Q to take him out. She made it sound like it was like a clubhouse thing or like an attitude thing. And then she cleared it up, thankfully. But it was just funny because you look at that and you may thinking like, oh, great, like team is falling apart.
Week 2.
Yeah, week 2, and there are already guys getting benched, So, but like I said, the good thing is Q said that, hey, like India was going to be available off the bench today. So it kind of seemed like they were just being on the cautious end, giving him a day off. And it paid off. I mean, having Michael at the top of the batting order seemed to bring a nice jolt to the lineup.
Yeah, I agree. Last topic I have in here, minor league updates. I don't know if you have anything you want to talk about here. I mean, Jack Caglione stays red hot. Tonight we're recording the night before the podcast drops. Hit a left center opposite field home run, 406 feet. He's absolutely mashing baseballs. So that's good to see still. I don't know if you have any other thoughts on Jack.
I mean, I think that's going to be the big question, right? I mean, I know that they are talking about moving Jack to right field to have him practice in the outfield, but I mean, I think a bigger question is like, there's going to be a time where it's like with Vinny and Jack, right? And I think it's Jack. It's like his more natural position would probably be first base. It's not like Vinny's an awesome first baseman defensively. I mean, I'd like to think that Jack has more long-term upside than Vinny Pasquantino, right? Like, I mean, I love Vinny. Vinny's a great guy. He's a great player, but Jack is closer to Bobby in terms of star power, I think, than he is to Vinny Pasquantino. And I'm really curious by that. Is like, how is that going to affect Vinny, right? It's like, how do the Royals, if the Royals are going to say, hey, it's Jack and Bobby's show, how does that affect Vinny? How does that affect his position at first base? How does that affect his stay in the lineup? Does that also affect how they handle him contractually? I mean, do we have to start thinking? I mean, I've always thought Vinny was an extension candidate, and I feel like they've kind of not done that. And I understand for a variety of reasons. Like, he's been hurt a lot. He's shown some, some warts in terms of his chasing and things like that. I don't know. I think it's something to really ask Royals fans about is like, is there going to be a situation between Jack and Vinny and they're going to have to choose between the two? I don't know.
Yeah, especially if Jack can't really get shifted over to the outfield, right? Like,
Right.
you need DH right now for Salvi to get days off. He's got 1 year left on his contract after
Yeah.
this. Like,
Mhm.
so Salvi's not going anywhere, and Jack's
Yeah.
going to be big league ready probably before we know it. So they're going to have to solve that problem. It might not be a super long term problem depending on how long Salvi plays, but like, I can see Salvi playing another 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's any if and or bad about it that he could play for another 2 to 3 years, and he's probably going to play for the Royals in some way, in some capacity. So like, if you need that DH spot for Salvi, you can't have Jack playing there every day or Vinny playing there every day at the DH spot. Like, it needs to be like a flexible area where you can kind of bring somebody in. Could he play right field and replace Hunter Renfroe today? Maybe, but like, we've never seen him out there defensively, so we just don't know. So you start to wonder, like, do you trade Vinny? Like, it's
I know
hard to say because like, Vinny's just such well loved in the clubhouse, and I'd hate to see him go because he's just such a great guy. But like, I mean, what were the talks with the Marlins, like Jesus Luzardo at some point back in the day? So like, I don't know if Vinny's value is right there still. But I mean, if he gets you an outfielder, I don't know.
Yeah, and I think about that deal, right? You think about, I mean, obviously it wouldn't have been good last year because Jesus Luzardo was hurt. But I mean, obviously, Jesus Luzardo is looking like Jesus Luzardo of old this year with the Phillies. So,
yeah,
and I don't know. I mean, yes, you lose Vinny, but through the Royals, are they Royals maybe more aggressive in trying to get somebody like Taylor Ward or Anthony Santander, or maybe they're more aggressive in the Mets trade? So I mean, I think those are things that are worth talking about. I think it's maybe a next year question, but I just get this feeling that it might be hard for Cags and Vinny to coexist, just because I'm not 100% that Cags can be an outfielder, and we've seen how hard it is to play outfield in Kauffman. And I mean, can he play, multiple games in right field at Kauffman? I can't say that for sure.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Only other minor league news I'll mention too is Kyle Wright. This is kind of injury minor league news, but he's thrown 2 innings in extended spring training earlier this week. So they got some more additional bullpen in there as well. So good step forward for him. Maybe we'll get to see him in a month or so, month and a half. It'll be nice to see him back out. He's former 18-game winner for the Atlanta Braves. So he's just kind of hanging out. We'll see what we get.
Yeah, I like him. I'd like to see him in a bullpen role. For some reason, I think he can kind of succeed as maybe not saying being exactly Wade Davis, but maybe doing a Wade Davis, Ian Kennedy career arc where he moves to the bullpen and finds some production there. I think he's got good stuff. They don't really need him for a rotation spot, which is nice. But it's good to see him back. For minors, I did watch some of the Columbia game today, and a lot of good things from there. Asbel Gonzalez, his average is up to 382 with an 857 OPS. 3 stolen bases this year, or 3 stolen bases today. He's up to 13 for the year. Now, granted, like low A ball is not a great level. Like, it's like typically like pitchers aren't good at holding guys on, and catchers aren't really good at throwing guys up. But Asbel Gonzalez looking really good, and Ramon Ramirez, kind of seen as a top 10 prospect by some, went yard twice. I saw one of his home runs. The guy's got a sweet swing, and his batting average is low. I think his batting average right now is 154, but 775 OPS. If he gets going, he could be a fun prospect to watch. Has a patient eye. So those are 2 guys, Asbel Gonzalez, Ramon Ramirez. Pretty good days today. Blake Walters, Hero Wyatt, both pitched today, did okay. They're keeping their pitch counts low. They only went Walters only went 3 innings. Wyatt only went 2, but really 2 guys to watch this year.
Yeah, I like Walters and Wyatt a lot. I think the command and control issues are going to be like any prep prospect. You're going to have those issues, but man, those 2, like Wyatt especially, has really been taking developments with the fastball and his off-speed stuff. Like, he's starting to hone in some some real things you want to see in a big league pitcher.
Yeah, really fun team in Colombia. A lot of fun, high
Yeah.
upside guys. They're kind of like one of the teams I kind of watch. Just, I mean, like I said, the baseball isn't a great quality, but it is fun to kind of see the upside of these guys.
I'm so mad. I thought that they were going to come into Fredericksburg again this year. No, they're not. Fredericksburg goes down there again. So I'm going to miss that completely. It's the only time that they would actually come up here.
Yeah, minor league scheduling is so weird. Like, it's like I don't get it. So
They go on like 8-game series to like Myrtle Beach, and they're there for like 7 games just at Myrtle Beach.
because they want to be at Myrtle Beach, right? It's like,
Yeah.
hey guys, like we don't want to go to Fredericksburg. Like we want to.
I think those bus trips are just so long that they end up just playing like a 6-7 game series against teams because they're like, we're not drawing this again.
Yeah, right. And it's just like and the reality is they call them bus leagues for a reason. So it's like,
Yeah.
they're like, can we handle all this travel and things like that? So especially when you got like a bunch of 18, 19, 20-year-olds.
Yeah. Only guy I'm going to touch on is Noah Cameron.
Yeah.
Dominating again in AAA, 1.65 ERA, 18 strikeouts in 16 and a third innings, 6 walks, 9 hits. Pretty good, man. Like he's the guy that I'm actually very excited to see debut. And like if Michael Lorenzen ever has to go to the bullpen, like I feel like Noah Cameron could slide into that 5th rotation role, and he's one of the safest floor pitchers that we probably have in the entire system. Like not much upside just because of the fastball. But the velo ticked up in the spring. Like if that holds, I'm ready to see Noah Cameron start throwing some games in the big leagues.
I love him, and I think there's something about a guy. Again, he had a kind of a rough go in 2023 in Double-A. Seemed to really embrace kind of what the pitching coaches and pitching development says. I mean, we got to like what Paul Gibson and what the Royals pitching development has done in the last 3 years is kind of really unbelievable. I mean, Alec Lewis, right, was writing an article about how like the Royals pitching development was like years behind, and then now we are like just churning out arms that are. I mean, that's probably the strength of our org now. The strength of our org is pitching. Which, if you told me in 2022, hey, that's going to be the strength of the Royals, I thought you're an idiot. There's no way that's gonna happen. So I mean, I think Noah Cameron's another success story. Again, a very under-heralded arm. Probably didn't get a lot of love in the draft. Went to a Central Arkansas, and now he is like knocking on the doors of the big leagues, and probably is going to get a shot at the big leagues sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I was looking at Pitch Profiler, who had his stats from the 4-8 2025 game.
Mm-hmm.
His fastball was averaging 93.9, which is most definitely higher than what he has been in the past. Changeup was at a 50% whiff rate. Curveball was at a 75% whiff rate. Pro stuff plus on a changeup was 127.
Yeah, I mean,
the changeup fastball looks pretty good. The curveball is now at a 102 pro stuff plus. If that holds, like it's a pretty good pitch mix.
I mean, he's got good pitch quality. I mean, he's got good pitch quality. He knows. I mean, 7 strikeouts today and 5.1. And to be honest, this is not a bad. The Saints are not a bad lineup. I mean, I mean, they've took it to the Storm Chasers in the first 2 games of the series. I know Chandler Champlain had a really rough go against them, but so Cameron's not doing this against a terrible team. So yeah, I'm really excited about him. I think it wouldn't be surprising if we see him, in some capacity this year.
Yeah. I think that's all we got for minor league update for Crown Talk. Any final thoughts from you, Kevin?
Tough stretch coming up. I mean, Yankees, Detroit. I mean, Detroit is just playing awesome ball. Spencer Torkelson is finally looking like the number 1 pick he was supposed to be. I think those are going to be some really testing series for the Royals. I mean, I think if the Royals can get at least 1 of 3 in New York, they can split Detroit. I think I'd be happy. I know that's not like the highest expectations, but considering where this offense is and where like we're not sure about Jonathan India, I think getting a split in Detroit and at least taking 1 of 3 would be a win for the rest of this road trip.
Yeah. So that your prediction 1 and 2, right?
1 and 2 against the Yankees, then 2 and 2. So probably 3 and 4 this week.
Let me see. What am I gonna go with here? I'm just gonna take a look at the matchups real quick. We don't have Ragans, which kind of
that blows. That's huge.
I'm saying 2-3 against the Yankees.
Okay.
1 because the matchup is Lugo versus Carlos Carrasco. So I'm taking the Royals to take that. They're going to tee off on Carrasco. We talked about the the low 90s. I think they're going to lose the Fried Walker game.
Yeah.
And I think they will win the Kris Bubic Clark Schmidt game.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it. I mean, the Yankees are also 8-6, so it's not like
Yeah.
the Yankees are kicking butt like they were last year.
I agree. And then I'm going to agree with you on the split with the Tigers. I think they go 2-2. The rotations just are so equal. And if the Tigers bats, like the offense for the Tigers right now, if they're locked in like that, I might even say that the Royals lose 3 or 4.
I mean, they're going against Joe, Mize, Skubal, Flaherty.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a tough 4.
Yeah, Ragans will go one of those games, so maybe they win the Ragans game. But man, if it's Ragans Skubal, it's still going to be tough.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ragans is going against Mize,
okay,
which I feel better against.
Mm-hmm.
But Skubal going against Lugo, that's a tough one. And Waka and Flaherty, I feel like we've had decent performance against Flaherty. I don't know. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
I have to look back.
Yeah, it'll be a fun week. Hey, I like playing these teams. Gets to show how competitive the Royals are, and we'll get a better sense of like what this team's really made of. We will see you again next Monday. I appreciate you all tuning in. If you didn't see it, there is a card giveaway. We're going to give it till the end of next week. Probably retweet that out this week. Got a Michael Garcia numbered rookie card, a few other things in there. If you follow Crown Talk, got a chance to enter. So appreciate you all following along. Appreciate you subscribing. Appreciate you listening in. And until next time, go Royals.
Go Royals.